Yo, what's up guys? Another video and up your artifact game. Been a while since I made one of these in the series, but today we're gonna look at increase proportional to lost HP, or like all three of them: speed, defense, and attack. So which unit can you use them? Which units can benefit from them? But also how much does it actually increase? First off, for the people that don't know it, additional damage from X is over the total stat. Therefore, a 4000 attack with 10% will do 400 additional damage. This is different. This works from the base. So let's say you would have a 50% additional attack by lost HP. That means that the moment you're at 1%, or let's say with 0.1% of your HP, so you get 50% of your base attack, which in this case on an Elucia will be 350, a little bit. So is it really that great? Because how often are you at 1% HP? There's a few units that are quite often at 1% HP. Let's say a Miho is pretty often at low HP. A Laika or any vampire unit I can think of could be like, that could be interesting because let's say you give more speed, so you cut more. But it also doesn't really work necessarily as a nemesis. If you do the increased speed by lost HP, it is not necessarily nemesis. Nemesis is like when you get hit, you instantly get that attack bar. But this works over ticks. So if there's a unit that moves right after his unit, you can cut with Nemesis. But with this, you cannot cut with that much, can you? But probably not, because you get more speed, so you have more ticks, or like within the ticks, you actually catch up. But if there's a next unit right after the next tick already, you will not cut in as you would with Nemesis. But let's see. I'm gonna test this with Mio damage, Pisama damage, which I think is also pretty interesting one. I'm gonna test this with support. How much additional defense do you get, and does that actually like decreases the damage I do on it by quite some? And I'm gonna test it with a unit to see like how much speed and then it cuts in, and like how far is the cutting range. So those are the things. Let's get into it. Okay, first going for baseline Miho without any additional of the attacks and keeping it fair. So I have an attack increase by lost HP on this with an attack base, and this one is an HP base, so therefore we get the same results. So I'm not sure if this is the smartest way around, but I'm gonna hit Miho with a Miho. Let's see the amount of damage on just S1s in the counters. So non-critters are about 2000, but I think we have to look at crits. I mostly will crit. So crits are about 5.4-ish, a little bit more. The counter crits are less, it seems. 5.2, 5.3. That one is more of a heavy hit. Seems like the counters do less damage, didn't even know. 5.2. 5.3. I think on like a 5.3 is pretty average for an S1. Yeah, it does seem like it. 5.3, it has a range of like 300. While upping this artifact, the other artifact had a little bit additional damage from speed. I don't want to take anything like additional in this equation besides this, so gonna wait out this artifact. So then I have 74% increased attack by lost HP. That is equal to how many rolls? One roll is 14, 17, 2. That's equal to about a little bit more than 5 rolls. So a max legendary could technically be 70. So on the both of them, I pretty much have like high blue. Okay, that's max 72. We also do have some additional for the speed, but that one doesn't matter since it doesn't add like any extra damage. S1 damage at the start still should be the 5.3, 5.4-ish. The counters do less damage, that's normal. So I'm at half HP, so that's pretty much like having a 35 something-ish additional. 5.9, so that's an increase of a fair like 10% of the damage. That's not too bad actually, that is not too bad. Let's try to get 6.1, that's decent. Let's see if we can actually get, let's hope I don't die from that. Nice, I did get a little bit of healing. So this is pretty much like pretty full as you can get. So let's see how much damage this extra does. That's a 1k extra damage. That's a lot of extra damage. And the more crit damage you have, the higher it's multiplied. The armor break is in there, higher it's multiplied. But in general, this is I'm actually surprised. This is a decent amount of damage increase, and currently I'm on a 72. So technically, if you go quad rolls both sides, you could go 140. Well, you're not gonna get quad rolls both sides, but let's say you go like good triple rolls both sides, then you could easily get like somewhere around 100. So you could up your damage by what, 25% on a Miho? That's fair amount. That's a fair amount. Or any unit that is like expected to be low HP. Even like any vampire unit, Pisama, that kind of stuff. I don't really have to test Pisama because I guess it's the same issue. You kind of know what the damage increases. It does depend on like how much crit damage you have, how much crit rate you have, that kind of things. How much attack is already in there, if you have an attack increasing effect, blah blah blah, yada yada, the whole thing. But yeah. Interesting. So it's actually a fair amount of damage increase. It is actually a fair amount of damage increase. Wait, let's see if we can get like a hit on. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad, but you do only want to kind of use this on units that you expect to be low HP. Okay, I died. 70% crit rate Neo. But yeah, not bad, not bad. And there's probably a few more units that you can think of, like, oh, this can work, that can work. So let's try the defense one. Okay, so I'm gonna try it with my Wusa. I wanted to try it with Nigang, but apparently I don't have that much percentage for Nigang. I have an 87 in total here, which is a 51, which is a high triple. And then this is a high double. So let's see how that works out. So I'm gonna hit the Wusa with my Diana, but for testing purpose, I cannot put crit damage from good and crit damage from bad because it will like fluctuate the damage even more. And additional damage from defense and HP and that kind of stuff ignores defense, so I cannot use that one either. So this Diana is gonna hit that Wusa. Okay, let's see what kind of damage we do early on, and then let's see what kind of damage we do later on. So at the first switch, we're at 2.1, yeah, 2.1 average, I guess. Maybe 205. Okay, let's see if it starts lowering down a little bit. We're at 1.9s already. You do see a fair amount of increase, actually, like, progressively. Okay, still 1.9 and a half. But he did heal just a little bit, so that helps. We're at 1.8 and a half. So the defense actually does... I'm not sure how much defense on Wunsa is by itself, actually. But it does decrease the damage by quite some. To a fair amount. It's actually not as bad as I thought. We're at 1.6s. Well, 1.68, but... Okay, nice heal. Close to, yeah, 1.6 and a half. A little bit more still. So from the start, we actually increased the defense. Or we actually decreased the damage. All the way at the bottom, like close to like... what is that? So close to like 20% of the damage reduction, which is a decent amount. But if you would just reduce like 20% damage from wind, you're already there. So is this necessarily the best for a defense unit? No, I wouldn't say so. But let's say you have it as some additional lines, it is not bad. Like let's say you have it as like a third or a fourth line and it's happened to be in there. It is not that bad. It does add up a little bit, but I'm more convinced that the attack one for some low vampire units is better than this. But if you have then low attack, then having more defense, let's say for a Laika or anything that doesn't have passive of not dying, then it would be pretty nice as well. So for the speed test, I have a Tetra on 95%, which are pretty decent rolls on both sides. So it's 51 and 44. And this is a Tetra that I just use in roll balls, nowhere else. But the lower your speed is, the more this thing counts. So keep that in mind when you put this on a unit, that the lower the speed of that unit, the more it would count. Would you put this on like a 300 speed Tetra, then you're not going to gain as much as your Tetra will be like 150. So units that are usually more bruiser could be more potential on this. Would you necessarily throw this on a ragdoll or something? I wouldn't necessarily say so, but it could be an option that therefore your ragdoll has like more chance to lap. But again, some of the more additional lines rather than like a must line, I would say. Okay, I'm gonna hit this. It's about 200 speed. The Tetra is about 150-ish. So technically I should lap 25%. Wait, why can't I not click? I can click it. So technically I should lap like 25% every time. Well, I got speed towers and blah blah yada yada, so not really, but kind of. So let's actually see if we see that Tetra starts like lapping at some point. Might take a little bit. So that's where you can see like it's not really a nemesis. Like you don't get the attack bar right away. You get it like after your turn pretty much. Maybe this is not the best way to test it, but I'm actually not even killing it. I don't want to overkill it with an armor break though. Doesn't seem to help that much, to be honest. Like she's still kind of on the same attack bar every time I get a turn. Not that I really kill her or anything, but yeah, you do see like a small increase of her attack by every time I get a turn. So let me try another round and actually start using some more. Like actually to attempt to kill her rather than just being nice. Okay, if I armor break and he procs again, she's dead. Well, that works. No, she also procs. Don't proc. Wow, that's a thick shield. Yeah, you like around this time you start seeing that she's lapping like quite, or she's getting close to lapping. Yeah, now when I get an attack bar, at some point she's gonna lap, I think. Like, I think in this rotation she would have lapped, so... But again, this is a really slow Tetra, so it doesn't make all too much sense. But still, those kind of units that have passive healings, I would put those on, like, the additional speed. But again, wouldn't really be a main focus. I would use the attack focus for vampire units that are presumably low HP. So, Mihos. Garrows, maybe not even, because Garrow, it could be low HP, but Garrow dies, or like Garrow's passive, doesn't necessarily bring him to low HP. It prevents him from death. And Mihos, and he nullifies the damage. Miho still got to 1 HP. Garrow stays at the HP when his passive procs. So, therefore, Garrow and Miho have like a different interaction with these kind of things, but you do expect Garrow to be like rather low HP. So, any vampire unit, even if you put it on a Leica, even on a Kaki, I think this is a really legit one for Kakis and these units that just scale like pure of attack. Yeah, definitely, definitely. So, putting this on a Kaki would actually increase the damage by a lot, I would say. Like, really a lot. Let's test that. Let's test. Putting that on a Kaki. The thing is also, because it's base, like the more in the stat you already have, the less it actually counts. No, I'm not going to test this on a Kaki, and I'm going to explain why. A, because the video is long. B, the other attack is multiplied by a higher multiplier because of crit damage. In Kaki's case, sure, he has a way higher multiplier in its skill itself, but the higher you already have a stat, the less it actually counts. And the same for example, if a unit has a really high base in something, it counts more. And it's not the total. But if you have, like, let's say already 4k attack, and then you add like another, let's say you add like 1k attack more, which is pretty much impossible because at a Kaki you would need like 130%, which is like, it's pretty much like close to quad rolls high rolled. Then it gets like pretty difficult to get like that extra 25%. Whereas with the Miho, for example, adding the 25%, I only did that with like 72 something. Yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it at that. I hope you learned a thing or two. I wouldn't really necessarily main focus on these lines, but still to just check like how useful are they. I was actually impressed by the attack one. So guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.